Happy One Wheel Wednesday, everybody. What a great day today without glasses because it's just you, me, and a few other people. I have my lovely wife over here. We're talking about one wheel tires. She has one of the faves on her desk. Someone would ask, why is it not on a one wheel? Do you have an answer to that?
Why
Holly?
is this one not on my one wheel?
No, a one wheel. If it's a house favorite, what's it doing there?
Well, it's probably the extra.
Oh, maybe so. We'll
Hi,
get to that in a moment. We got the one and only Lily Arnold, who is very pregnant.
Hi, Barry. I wouldn't say that.
What?
Why are you not wearing glasses?
Well, we have no one we're talking to you on.
Oh,
is it really confusing you?
Have you ever done that?
No.
Yeah, once.
Today is
a new day.
monumental.
Monumental.
Write it down.
I didn't know I was going to get so many questions, but
People
Lily's in a
will
season of
say
questions.
something about this.
I know we're
though.
on it today. We're on it. We're here to make everyone feel.
You know what? What's going to come
alive.
down to
Let's
is
hear it.
you tend to get crap when you wear sunglasses.
Now I have none on.
You are also going to get crap for not wearing sunglasses.
You just can't win, folks. You can't. We are talking about tires, all right? If you're a Vesc rider, one-wheel rider, these are the things you need to know about tires. We've wrote a bunch, okay? We have been on one wheel since 2015. We started on the grandfather of them all, the Vega, and we have tried almost all. Not every one of them. There's so many now hitting the market. It would be impossible to order all unless they're sent here for us to continue to try.
Which you can.
We can. Yeah, if you want to send us tires to try, we would love to try them. We love to create content about tires. We enjoy, because one of the biggest things you can do and the cheapest upgrade you can do to your one wheel is change the tire. The tire changes the ride 100% hands down. Sometimes it's the Goldilocks experience where you put that on, you're like, wow. And other times you put it on like, no way will I ever do that. And we're going to give you our opinions on it. We have more treaded tires around here than we do slicks. That's just because of the way we ride around here. Slick tires are not advantageous to our trail riding enjoyment. Slicks are really great for the street, and we just don't do a ton of that. My suggestion, if you're looking for something that would be great on trails and street, your best bang for the buck, greatest ride is going to be the Enduro, which this is the 5-inch tire on Lily's desk right here.
I got it.
If we can point to it. That's the 5-inch Enduro. That is a great tire. It has good bite in snow, in rain, in trails, and street. That gives you the ability to do both, I guess, the trails and streets if you don't want just a slick. This is an older tire. This is a Burris collab with Float Life way back in the day. This is a slick that we just have laying around in case we do ever want to put a slick on. What I love about Float Life's tires is the way they make it, and they offer it in so many different compounds, and they're making a true one-wheel tire. I know there's other companies out there doing it. We said, or somebody was in the chat talking about the GOAT tire from Flight Fins. Great tire. We've had that around here for a while. It's a really treaded tire. But now there's so many, like this Thundercat over here is a genuinely treaded tire, and this
one is chunky.
It's chunky, and it's great. And again, the reason why some of these tires are not on tires at the moment, or on rims, is because we are in the off-season, and we are moving stuff around at the moment. My setup has changed drastically.
And I wrote the other day because you changed my setup.
Holly's setup changed the other day.
What did you think? Did you like it?
Awesome.
She's
awesome.
She's back
That's
to
great.
a little bit. She's back to the big wide tire, 7-inch wide tire, which she loves that more for stability and comfortability.
For sure.
And so she's back to her setup, but she's on a 6-inch rim, which gives her a little bit more squish. So before we get to all the tires conversation, if you have a thought or questions, put them in the chat. We'll try to answer them, okay? And so we will get to the rest of this conversation after we do the recap of the Super Bowl. How do we feel about the Super Bowl, Lil? Did it meet expectations?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the game itself wasn't that great.
Why?
Because who wants a blowout on the Super Bowl? It was nice that toward the end the Chiefs put more points on the board, but
If that's just so
not a fun game to watch.
No, but that means just at the end the score looks like it was a game.
Right.
But
yeah,
that
but
was
you had
against
to watch it.
Yeah, it was like the 40-20, I think, is the score, and it makes it seem like it might have been, but it was against the Eagles.
It was like until quarter 4.
Yeah, because the Eagles put in their backups.
Yeah.
It was like a high school game where you watch.
For the Super
it's a
Bowl.
blowout, and then you get the backups, which is cool for the backups to say they actually played.
I will say though, I didn't know that this guy was reading that book like in multiple games before the Super Bowl. I watched the Super Bowl, noticed this guy is like being filmed for reading a book on the sidelines, and I see the cover, and I've been reading this book because
What's the name of the book?
Inner Excellence.
Yeah.
This friend of mine recommended it, and mean, we don't need to give a book review, but I just thought it was so funny. I was
So
like,
the
what?
story with that is he started reading that, I don't know, 3-4 games ago, and it was to keep him level-headed so he wouldn't lose his temper.
Good for
and so
him.
he started reading the book. He got filmed doing it in the first game, and that became the #1 seller that week.
Yeah.
That fast.
Well,
Boom. So
yeah.
it works. He played well. I thought the game was mediocre. I thought the...
Okra?
Mediocre.
Mediocre. Not very good. I thought the commercials, man, there were some memorable, but it was just like I was left wanting more.
Does that mean we're getting old?
Yeah, I think what we saw this year in the commercials, maybe some people in the comments can help us, but I think what you saw in the Super Bowl, and again, if our audience isn't in the United States, I know this is very centered
Central
to the United States, but the commercials we saw were more to be memorable, to be talked about, instead of memorable that was
Because they were clever.
clever. It was more like the tongue one. You
Shocking.
talk about that because you're like, what was that?
That
or,
was crazy.
or the eyebrows, or the mustache.
The mustache was funny to me.
Yeah, but it
And
like...
they had like some iconic mustache actors.
For sure,
famous
and you need that.
people.
If you're gonna do that, you better have the iconic
Yeah,
ones.
I liked that.
Yeah. So the Super Bowl was okay. Halftime show, okay. I appreciated some of the production
I
value
want one
of
of
it.
those
But
sweat outfits in every color.
you do?
Even like the neck and like mask and like gloves and like covered shoes.
I thought how they moved. They used the
that
whole
was,
field.
That part was
Yeah.
interesting.
I thought how the Kendrick used the whole field was pretty cool and impressive to move around. It was different that I don't remember this in all Super Bowls in the past, but it was definitely performed for the television and
Yeah.
not for the arena.
For sure.
Did you pick up on that?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
And-
Yeah, I thought so
they were
too.
all staring at the cameras.
Yeah, so I don't know how those that were there felt like that
They
was.
were probably just watching the screen.
Or they went and got drinks and went to the bathroom. Who knows? But there you go. There's our real quick recap.
We've got Onewheel Philly in the chat, and
Oh.
he's saying, as a Philly fan, it is awesome. The parade's on Friday. He's going to be out
Oh,
riding
that's
around.
great.
So that's
so
super fun for you.
fun.
Congrats.
Yeah,
So
the-
fun.
Just for you.
Yeah, the Eagles did it quite well. And you know, I think the flip of the Super Bowl between these two was, you know, only 2 years ago, and the score was not as drastic, but still the Eagles got beat pretty good. And so great, your team got to do it. I couldn't root for them as a Viking fan, but it's cool any fan base right here getting to root on your team.
Right.
And so put in the chat here on your ride, what do you, all of you that are riders, if you're live with us at this moment, what's your tire what's your go-to tire? Maybe you move around just because you want to feel it, but I'm always going to go back to that tire. Maybe it's a 5-inch. Maybe you're part of the big tire gang. That's trending at the moment, but
I can't wait to see some of that this year.
the big tire gang. I mean, Luke Austin posted his picture today, and then the Full Life reposted on Instagram.
Wow.
It's huge. Like the tire's big, the setup's big because the rails have to be bigger to get those tires on there. You can get the same sensation going back to the tire that's over here with Lily in a 5-inch hub with a more rubber with your normal setup. So if you don't want to overhaul your entire Onewheel, 5-inch hub is where you want to go to get similar sensation. I might as well bring my ride out. Just rode it into the office today. We got the Float Life 5-inch hub and 52 magnets. Been waiting for a lifetime for that. With the Pioneer tire on here. Stoked on this setup. The Pioneer tire bites. It's great for the trails, snow. Just rode it all up in the snow. And it is a great, very stable ride. But when you go to turn, you don't feel like you've got to turn into a wall, like you're falling off the wall. It's just what I was hoping. We really like the Pioneer tire. And I got to play with the PSI right now. I think about like 10 PSI, but I almost feel like that's too low. I can pump it even up more, and I will get more of the stability because of the form factor of the tire. So, and then the M52 magnets keep me with my power and torque that I want and top end speed. So stoked on this setup going into race season. As our first race will be out there in Texas in, what is it, like a couple months?
April?
Yeah, beginning of April, so 2
Get
months
some
away.
warmth in.
Warmth, maybe
Might be a
get-
little warmer here by then, though.
Probably for sure.
Yeah.
But we'll
Only a
be
couple
there.
months away.
We got that crew, Float Life Lemonade, over on here. They're gonna be talking about their festival and all the details of this year. So we're excited about that, to talk with them, have them on here, and talk shop. What one wheels do they ride? And so let's get back to the tire game. You usually can pick your compounds when you go to purchase a tire, especially if it's a one-wheel tire. You go to the Float Life, and they have done such a great job. Lily, we go to the Float Life and then go to a tire and click it. They've done a really good job as they've overhauled their website now. When you go and look at a tire, it gives you like bars, if you will, to give you, hey, this is more stable, this is more this. And it's a great way for you to get informed on the tire, because sometimes when you're purchasing a tire blindly, you're like, well, what am I gaining with this?
What are you wanting me to do?
What am I losing? Okay, click on a tire.
Okay.
And then it should give you, can I see it? And then we'll turn it around to the, yeah, there we go. Lily's going to put it on her camera really quick so you can see it. You can see the sliders. Now, you're not going to be able to read them, but see the sliders. Lily, read what it's saying now that they see it. So it goes profile.
Profile, you have between nimble, balance, and stable. Terrain is street, trail, mud, or snow. And performance is torque, balance, top speed.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's really easy for you to be able to pick up your style of riding and then go to their website and go, well, I'm much more of a off-road, so it's going to narrow down your selection, unless you've rode a friend's tire. But that's if you get to group
pretty sweet
price.
because, like, I don't like to buy things that then don't get used. And so if you can narrow down the descriptive of it, like, that's pretty sweet, because then you can kind of get a better idea.
Right.
Hone in on what you like.
I think,
Nice job.
you know, again, as
job.
manufacturers like Float Life and Flight Fins and different companies will begin to produce more of their tires. Some of the things like the Thundercat, it's a 6.5 rim. That's the stock, used to be the stock go-to tire for the GTS and GT hubs. Well, the Thundercat's for a 6.5, and we're weeding out our 6.5 rims around here. And so that tire sits where it's like, it is a backup, as we have a few people riding around here. They have Pioneer tires sitting on their one wheels currently. So that's if we get flats. But if that was in a 5-inch, it would be like, oh, I might switch to that. I know if it was a 6-inch, maybe Legend would be slapping that on. There's just some of those things that you start processing through if you had selections of sizes. But I understand, too, all of those that create those tires, it's a battle of resources. Where do I put my money, and where is the demand? And so you can't offer every tire. I'm glad the Pioneer tire came out in the 5-inch, because that is one of my go-to treaded tires for trails. And having it on a 5-inch is like, all of a sudden I got the perfect solution. Even when I rode the 6-inch, the reason I moved to a 6-inch hub was I got the stock tires are more powerful magnets than I had previously in my 5-inch hub. The 5-inch hub that's sitting over here, this is from One Wheel Parts, and it's N48, and I could just feel the squishiness as going up on hills and things of that nature. So I'm finally at a spot where it's like, this is the setup I want, and it's taken a wee bit to get there. Thank you to Float Life for helping us get it here and put on. Very grateful for that. And now some of our kids, we've got boards torn apart all over the place here. We'll end up with that setup with their stator in it. Holly is to her 6-inch rim with a 7-inch wide tire. Actually, is it? What tire is sitting on that? It is the stock tire. It's the GT Performance tire. But she also likes...
Which I like that one. I liked that one when I first got it.
You like the stability of the 7-inch tire.
Yes.
Whereas Float Life, the Pioneer, is 6.9. They could never get to the whole number of a 7. It's got to be 69 or 6.9 because they like that. It's their favorite number. And so there's the play on that. I believe that one is a 6.5, so that is a 5-inch tire with for the rim, and then the width of that tire is a 6.5. Great stability tire. When it comes to tires, don't like the 5.55s. I originally put one of those on my original OG XR, And I was like, no, thank you. I didn't like the squirreliness. It was just not as fun, especially coming from a Vega. So I like a little bit wider of a tire. And the 7 inches or the 6.9s are, in my opinion, the way I ride, I just enjoy. Now, when Jeff Adair was racing, and he loved the 5.5s. Like, this is a Burris, and this is a 5.5.
The first 5 is how wide it is?
Sure. No, first it's the hub, I believe. Somebody can correct me. And then it's how
much?
How wide, width-wise. So you have, this is 5 inches wide.
Yeah.
This is 5 inches.
Yeah.
And then you get the width from the left and right side walls, I believe. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that. I don't always pretend to be an expert. I like to be teachable. But that is how I understand it. And so it really goes 11, 5, 5 by 5. So let me correct myself. So it's 11 inches wide. It's a 5.5 tire by 5. So it is telling you the width is 11. 5.5 is the I'm getting confused all of a sudden. It is the 5.5.
I have not followed.
Oh, no. 11 inches across this way. I'm sorry, if we could delete it. This is live if you didn't know.
Rewind.
It's 11 inches down.
You're right.
It's 5 inches here, and the width of this is 5.5. I apologize to everybody.
You got
when
it.
it's live and questions being asked.
Diameter by width by rim size.
Thank
you, Float Life. They are the experts, everyone. And like I said, being live, getting questions, sometimes it's like, oh yeah, what is that?
Yeah, sorry. And I'm the one that never remembers how it works out.
Those are important things. I think now, why would you want to go to either? And we know Float Life because last week our guest, Nico, told us about the big tire gang that Float Life is developing. They're deep into creating a big tire gang tire. It seems to be a couple months off just as they're trying to get it perfect. Why would you go to, what's the point of having more rubber? Scott's opinion of riding and talking to other people. This is where right now, this is how you get some version of suspension on your ride. There's more rubber between you and the rocks you're riding, and you can get over bigger terrains, bigger rocks you can get over. You just naturally ride up and over them. And so the more rubber, the softer, more enjoyable ride, but also the more terrain you can get, the more gnarly the terrain is. Like knowing that we're going back to where we raced in Texas, there's no way I'm not riding on a 5-inch rim in Texas. There are bigger, chunkier rocks that you just go over them versus a 6.5. You hit that and it stops you. It throws you off. And so knowing that, it's like, man, I'm going to switch to a 5.5 or a 5-inch rim because of I get more of that bite. My tire hits those big chunky boulders at different spots in the tire, which makes it easier to get over. For those that are riding stock setups, your rails are the standard width and length. 5-inch rim is where you want to go. The Float Life has all the colors now. It used to be you were only they only sold the silver. Now you can get in there. I was just on there last night. I think they still have a few of the colored 5-inch rims sitting available. This would allow you to have a more comfortable ride for street and for your trails. It's a wonderful. I don't get any money saying this, so it's not like, well, of course, you just got it, so you're going to sell. No, I have no affiliates with anybody on it. It's just my opinion of the 5-inch rim is very, very enjoyable, and it's a great upgrade for your ride. No matter where you're at, you always hear Jeff talk about as he rides, he loves the 5-inch rim, and he does ride trails, but I always see him on the street, so he loves it for both. And I can't speak that much on roads except for when I have rode it. It's been very enjoyable. The 6.5, somebody always said, why do you think Onewheel? I have a feeling that plays into future things. Some want to speculate it was the aftermarket market they're trying to squash, and so they go up. I try to assume the best in everybody. I got to assume it's for a future product, a future move that they thought they were going to move to or are going to currently move to. It'll be interesting to see as they play that out because they didn't do away with the 6.5. It's still available. You can upgrade to the 6-inch motor or hub for your GTs and GTSs, which the 6-inch is what was on the original XR, which gives you just a little bit more rubber. 5-inch definitely gives you more. I've not rode the big tire gang, but as people are building their Vescs with more power, it is allowing them to get those bigger tires on there and to be able to push that without losing range, because now you have the power to do that. If you were to take a stock board, based on what I've heard and understand, you're not going to be gaining any speed. It's going to take a lot more battery to push that big tire around, and so you're not going to gain much. You need to upgrade some of the other components to handle the big tire. So somebody can speak more intelligent on that. Every tire that we have sitting on here on the desk right now, from the Thundercat, the Pioneer that's down here, the Enduro on Lily's desk, and the Burris 5.5, ride so different. Like, I can't even tell you. They are night and day. We try to do reviews of what do they feel like, and they all have, I think, their place. There are some tires that we have just said, no way, Jose, we're never riding again. Like
what are those?
It was some Vega we rode. It was hard compound.
I thought it was like the Hoosier. Wasn't there a Hoosier Whisper? Or something?
No, not a Hoosier Whisper, but there was a hard 5.5 Whisper or a 5.5 Hoosier we put on originally.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't want to ride that, but then we got
The
a Vega
treaded.
that was treaded,
The
and we
Vega
thought,
treaded.
well, man, would that ride like the original Vega on the Onewheel? And it was, your husband
didn't.
had it on his board,
Yeah.
and it's a bad tire for
not
Onewheels.
great.
It just is.
Have you had the Trail Pro 2?
I have not had the Trail Pro 2, but let's be honest. When you go to like ORL 2024, that tire performed very well with certain riders. Obviously, you have certain riders and their skills, but they're also riding the Trail Pro 2 and bring home the victory. So, Diesel Cecil, she rocked it, did well with it. And so I got to say,
Everyone's saying it's good.
it's a good tire. We've not had the honor to ride that, but we've had the original Trail Pro, and it was awesome. This was an upgrade where tires took a change with the Enduro. If I go through the gamut of tires for Onewheels, the Enduro was the first tire, to my knowledge, that we saw the tread go to the sidewalls, because as you ride them in trails and hitting berms, you're riding the sidewalls of your wheel a lot. Well, if we go to Lily's desk really quick and you can put it in front of the camera for everybody to see, you're going to be able to see the sidewall comes with the tread just a little bit more, which then you take that into the one that sits on Holly's desk, the Thundercat. Even more tread comes to the side, which is more bite on those berms and switchbacks. And so that changed the game of why if you're going to get these. And then you go to the Trail Pro 2, and it has that feature on there. And to me, that has been a wonderful addition to the tires, is that now you have tread on the side walls of your board. Now, one thing when you come to purchase a tire is you got to ask yourself, do you like soft compound? Soft compound will not give you longevity of a tire as much. You're not going to get as many miles out of it. It's soft compound. So really hot days, you ride it on, it's just going to start wearing away on your tire. But the ride, in my opinion, is so enjoyable, because again, it's another way to have a more cushy, enjoyable ride, but you don't get the length of miles. The harder the compound, the more miles you're going to get out of it, but you will pay not
does the harder compound not as much give, so it feels a little
right. It's more
bouncier
rigid. You're going to bounce off bonk. Using our terminology, you're going to bonk more than you're going to ride over. You're going to my riding style, I don't enjoy the hard compound. I know some people love that style, and I'm not trying to talk anybody down. We're trying to give you a comprehensive review on tires. So as you're making your decision of what tire do you add, it's the off season. You should get a new tire. Somebody's going to go, well, how long can a tire go? Thousands of miles, if rode right, 1,000 miles.
Mine
you could
maybe last 2.
Yeah, Holly's last
2 miles.
2,000.
Oh, 2,000.
I think, you can run them down to be bare, or you can go, it's time to change up my ride. I want to try a new ride. I I always think, read up on it. And honestly, the coolest thing you can do, or coolest, that seems so undescriptive. The fastest way to change, quickest way to change your ride on your one wheel is the tire. And so then you get to mess around with that. And it took me a while to get there with the Vega. I was like, I love the Vega. And then I started trying other tires like, oh yeah. I still like the Vega for nostalgic reasons, but the tire game has come.
Yeah, like no one's really riding a Vega.
No, it's gone a long way. The GT Performance tire, GTS Performance tire, wonderful tire. I really like it in the 6-inch rim. You got a little bit more of that rubber. I do like their design. It's a hybrid tire, meaning the tread isn't really...
Not super chunky.
Right. It's not going to be like the Thundercat or, again, the Pioneer that sits down here. The Thundercat has more bite. And the way we say that, Holly, will you hand me the Thundercat? Mm-hmm. And then I'll bring up the Pioneer here in a second. But so we'll come to the close one. Here's the Thundercat sitting here. This gap between the tread makes this bite more. The closer the tread, like Lily, will you hand me your tire really quick? I forgot the rims on that. The closer that gap between the tread, the less bite it has. This has some bite, but this is why it's a hybrid. It's kind of got a little bite with the markings on the outer sidewalls, but this is pretty smooth. But you still got a little bit of bite with
You can't really get your finger in between the tread.
Correct.
Whereas the Thundercat, you can.
The Thundercat has a lot, so you're gonna eat up some gnarly stuff because of the bigness in the tread. The Pioneer, why it's a good one either way, is because it is got big gaps, but then if you see through it, the big gaps over on the left and the right, just the treading isn't, those grooves don't come all the way across, so it changes the ride. All of this plays into the ride. Smart. Again, it's not just for look, though. There's some features on the Thundercat, and this, just the design on the sidewalls. This has dripping down at icicles, which is great, and it makes me enjoy the tire because it's not blank. And again, hopefully this is helping you to decide in your next purchase what tire might you want to upgrade with. Lily, you remember when it was 2 years ago and I had just gotten the first 5-inch rim from Float Life way back in the day?
Yeah.
And we rode it at Windman. And then you were riding a 6.5 the entire race. And then the last race, you rode the 5-inch. Mm-hmm. Can you explain the difference, if you remember?
I mean, I would just say it's a smoother, more like... you just like ride on the trails better. Like it's smoother.
Yes.
It goes easier on the trails. Like it's just not as like hard to move the board around.
You're not bouncing everywhere.
Right.
Because you can roll over things now. Yeah. So you're no longer having to maneuver with your feet, getting over things with a 5-inch rim. Same with you come from a 6.5 to a 6-inch rim, you are gaining a little bit more ability to ride over stuff. And if you go back and listen to Nico talk about the tire of the why go to a bigger tire, it's because the tire, more rubber, that tire hits things in a different spot and continue to roll over it versus bonk you, which no one wants when you're going at speed in a trail to start to bonk when you're trying to go fast. Because a bonk is fun, but not necessarily the fastest way through trail and chunk. You want to go over and keep moving along. The other nice thing about the more rubber you have, the less you're damaging your rim. Some of the reasons we have, I mean, if we go to the wide shot, we have these blue lights that are on the floor back here. You can kind of see it too, maybe, right there. You see that blue light right there? It's sitting on hubs that are broken. That the hubs are chipped. Because in a 6.5, there's not much rubber. It's like a low-profile tire that you would see on a car. There's not much rubber from the road, and it doesn't take much to chip or break the rim. That's why the Float Life came out with rim savers. And so they're good for nothing but to hold lights up at the moment because of the issue that they've created with chipped or broken rims. Thank you to Legend for doing that to our rims. He tends to break our rims around here.
Hard rider.
Hard rider. And then he also, the same problem goes as he's doing that. Sometimes his rim savers have popped off at the same time.
He just was putting that.
Chat.
Yeah, they rim savers are great until they're not. Right? Is that what you just said? Until they're not? Yeah, they're great until they're not. That doesn't like for the amount of miles we put in, that doesn't happen all the time. It's not like a every time thing. It really was in Texas, I think, was really where the main time those popped off. Was that right, Legend? He's in the studio today. Yeah, Texas and Windman.
He's a hard rider.
But it's a bit of the terrain as you're gonna, and he likes to drop off things. So when he's riding a 6.5
hub
and blows out the tire a little bit, what do you think's gonna happen? Something's got to give, and when he blows the tire out all the way to the rim, well, it's gonna pop the rim saver off. So that means to me, like a Legend style riding, he needs to go to a 5-inch tire. So that, or a 6-inch, that would give him the more rubber to be able to drop off things like he's dropping off. Hence why the pros want to go to the big gang or the big tire gang, because as they drop off things, they're not bottoming out and smacking either their battery or their rims. It saves the rims. So if you're going through rims and you're looking at what you're doing to your rims, you need a 5-inch rim, or you got to upgrade to a big tire gang. Those are your options. Or you can put on the lifesavers, and they do work. But if you're that hard rider that you're going to drop down and smack that thing all the time, you're going to end up with doing what Legend's doing. The rim savers work, like I said, until they don't. It's not a knock on it. It comes down to the riding style, not a design flaw. Actually, the second version of those things are wonderful, hard to get on, but they stay on better. But they still, as Legends drops off rocks, You gotta think about that, and I think everybody understands that. Again, this is a 5-inch tire. When Legends drop, he compresses the sidewall, comes down, and when it's compressed, if we can go to the tight shot here, when it compresses, right, you have no sidewall there, and a rim saver sits there. This is coming out and popping the rim saver off, and that's what's happening with Legend because he's on a 6-inch. I don't have a. Oh, well, you can look at Holly's tire here.
This is thorough.
Here's a 6.5 tire, right? You don't have much to blow out. So when he hits and it compresses.
Yeah, it's not that thick.
Now, the great thing about the Thundercat is the sidewall is a little bit stronger, so the less of that happens. That's some of the things you got to understand when you're picking a tire is what's the sidewall? Holly's trying to fix my helmet.
Thing. I don't know how to
You're
do
really
it.
struggling, huh?
I don't know how to do it. I was not trying to be distracting.
So when you put Vesc versus Onewheel, like, is there a difference for Vesc boards?
No,
with tires?
No, Vesc versus Onewheel, which tire is right for the ride, it really is your preference of what kind of riding you're going to do. And I think there's always a conversation, do you get a better ride out of the tire on a Vesc? It really is riding style. I think that's what you got to ask. And then you go in and do your setup in your app, if that's the Onewheel app or Vesc app, on kind of the tire you're riding, because it'll change the way you ride, how you corner. And maybe what we need to do is get somebody that's knowledgeable on setting up things. We could have done this last week. Maybe we'll get Dado on here and ask him some of those practical things. Okay, help us know how to set things up for a Vesc, or and in Onewheel, like, because there's so many things that you can tweak on hitting berms better. But it does come down to what tire you have on there, because that's going to change the way your tire rides berms. If you have a super, like this is a medium, I would say, sidewall, this is going to allow you to hit berms pretty well, and you're not going to feel really wobbly because it's going to hold it. If you get really squishy on the side and you hit those switchbacks in berms, you're going to feel squirrely, and you're going to back off the gas because it's compressing too much, because the speed compresses the sidewall when you lean on it like this. So then maybe you're like, oh, my style, I need a stiffer sidewall. And you just got to listen to people doing tire reviews. That's why in our tire reviews around here, you'll see me always grabbing the sidewalls and going, what's that like? How stiff is the sidewall? Because when done right, the middle is what I like. I like the middle to be pretty soft. I want my sidewalls to be not hard, but like a mid stiffness, so that because I like that sensation of snowboarding and surfing where you can really lay into a carve. I want to know that's going to handle the carve. I don't want it to make me feel like I've just dropped. And there's some tires out there that are hard here, and more square. And then when you go to turn, you're like, whoa, because you felt like you had a feeling of dropping off the tire because it's more of a square deal. The more round the tire is, the faster you fall into the carve, but you got to be able to ride that.
Yeah, but isn't that more nimbly? Like,
Correct.
That's hard for
That's
me
what
to be
you don't
nimble.
like.
Yeah.
Holly had this rim that's on Lily's desk. She had that 5.6, but she just didn't like it. No, I think that's a 6.5. That's the Enduro 6.5.
This looks small.
Yeah, she didn't like it. She liked that.
I just am not good enough at
with the nimble.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just not a good rider.
It almost makes you feel like you're on a pint.
Well, you just have to be confident in what you're riding.
This is correct.
It's not about being a good rider or bad rider, but at the end of the day, it's what you feel comfortable on. And the cool part is there's so many options.
So many options. Yeah. And you said it earlier, this is the fastest way to upgrade. Doing a tire is the fastest way to upgrade your ride. And it took me a long time to figure out what you meant by that. But once you get it, once you feel comfortable on the board and the tire that you like, then you recognize, oh my gosh, this is the ride that I like. Yeah. And everybody's different, so it's fun to have options.
I think you got to also, when you're, again, I'm not that knowledgeable on Vesc. I obviously I'm learning, and if you missed yesterday, we choose Onewheel. We're Future Motion.
Last week,
what I say yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, last week. There, you got those that are building Vescs. You need to, as you go into the project, you need to kind of know what direction you're going, because there are some limitations in the direction you choose to set up your Vesc. So if you set up for potentially the big tire gang, and then partway through you're like, no, I'm going to go to a 5-inch, and you've purchased some things, you might not be able to put a 5-inch hub on your setup. So you need to do your research in your journey of going, what is my actual desire here? And then pick your direction. Because just because you have a Vesc doesn't mean you can put any parts on there you want. It's choosing your lane, and then that's the direction you're going.
That was just said in the chat, that just because you do a Vesc or some 5-inch can't be used on a Vesc. So there's some research involved in that.
Right. Now, here's what I want to do on the screen here, because we have... And I need to move my iPad. Maybe.
You can put it here, because if you want, I'm going to.
Okay. Here's what's happening here. Lily's going to take off.
Love you all.
She's...
Got to go be pregnant and stuff.
What is wrong with this girl?
You were the one who said I was very pregnant.
But how are you
leveraging it.
How do you get partway pregnant?
How do you go be
You think I'm very pregnant? Holly, you're the only one.
How do you...
No.
What?
No.
She's not, I mean,
she's pregnant. You don't get halfway pregnant.
There's no very pregnant either.
Love you all.
Either pregnant or not pregnant.
I would think like triplets would make you very pregnant.
No, they use very pregnant like when you're on the very end of it, or like after your due date. Like you are very
Okay, this is not that kind of show.
Nope.
Okay, here what we have here. This is different size tires and all those, but what I want to pay attention is the rim circumference. Okay, so you have, starting out here, you have a 6.5 rim.
That's my choice.
You have a 6-inch rim.
That one's okay.
And you have a 5-inch rim.
Too little. Goldilocks.
Yeah, the Goldilocks is a 6, I guess. But, and again, it's hard to see because there's not, you can see through them, I suppose. But here is your choices if you're dealing with a Future Motion board. These are your choices in rim size. And again, I don't know how well it's coming across on
that shows that, I was just going to say, that shows the difference pretty well. So you can see when you're riding how much like compression you might have, or that's...
Yeah, but you can see, hopefully, what I really want to point out is not the circumference here, but how much rubber is sitting here.
Yeah.
That's what you hope. You can come here and see how thick that is versus how thin this is. And then in between. So
now, real quick question while you stay right there. Do they have one tire for all different sizes of hub? Do they have like the same tire, like the Thundercat? Can you get it in all?
No, right now, like in Float Life, I don't know all of their 5-inch tires they have, but I know that they have the Pioneer and Enduro for the 6.5.
And the 5.
And the 5. I think you can take the XR 6 and put it on your GTS and put it on a 6-inch hub. So they probably have all 3 for the Enduro, which is now forever on Lily's desk. She could have been real helpful if she would have, as I spin it into her camera.
Brought that to you?
No, she would have just put it.
Well, here, I'll get it.
No, I
You
got it. Look at that.
Wow, look at you.
Go to there. It is. We put it. There's the
So now you can see that.
that. I believe that tire can be purchased, but you got to go to the website. I'm not. But you get the idea now. Now you see with your own eyes the differences in your sidewalls, and that's some of the biggest difference in what you're going to get. This is obviously a Burris. This is not a one wheel made tire. This is just a Burris go-kart tire that you can put on there. The tread does not go down onto the sidewalls on this one.
Yeah, because you're not going.
See, go-karts don't carve.
You don't tilt up on.
So this tread is just here, not on the sidewall, okay?
Makes sense.
And so somebody's going to go, why did we have this? Because at the end of the day, when we were dirt servers last year, we went through
So many
tires that we had to buy whatever was available. And so we bought 2 of them because now we at least had a backup if we got 2 more or another flat. And so that's how we ended up with this one. It's not going on anybody's board yet because then we were able to come back and get the Enduro, the Pioneer now, and we have other options that we can slap on. So this is a spare for us to be able to keep and ride with. Same with this Slick. It just sits around in case we need a tire. Because when we travel, there's 10 boards traveling, especially when we're in the racing season. And out of those 10 boards, 9 of those boards are racing. So you have to carry a lot of duplicates. If anyone wants to sponsor our family to race this season and provide tires,
we're available.
Okay? We're available to be sponsored for tires because we go through them. Mm-hmm. We go through them like mad. We don't have a GTS performance tire on here to display. We like that tire. We have it on, Holly's riding it on her 6-inch. We currently don't have that on many other boards currently. Legend, are you riding that?
The 6.5 performance tire?
Yeah. Legend has a 6.5 performance tire. I enjoy that. We all enjoy it. I think they did a really good job with it. That is a good tire. And so I don't know if there's other questions that we could try to answer, but I feel like we kind of went through to give everybody like
you do a good job on tires, I think.
Asking questions and what do you want to do? Maybe I'll put the 5-inch. I like the 5-inch. I like the 5-inch when you just look at the board. I think the 5-inch looks so good. When you look at the setup on the board, it just looks.
What are you debating if you're going to put a 5-inch back on your board? Or
I have a 5-inch. The
yeah.
Pioneer. Are you following along?
I thought you did, and I was, yeah. I'm tracking.
There are other somebody's saying the float friend is saying 6-inch PT
is that or Pioneer
performance tire. I'm assuming GTS performance tire.
Yeah.
They're saying it's wobbly at high street speeds. Is that the treaded or is that the slick? Just as you're writing that, just wondering how you feel about that. Again. All of our riding, if we're on the street, we're typically not racing. We're just cruising to go to a destination, and don't really get much wobble in it in the trails. I mean, I raced most of last year. When I say race, understand it's not Austin Silva racing or Luke Austin or Mercedes Silva's racing. It is mine.
I raced Mercedes.
Yeah, yes, you did. Holly did. Yes. So I when I went at the speeds I go, which is fast enough, I never experienced speed wobble inside the racing,
the trails
but I'm not going straight. So how fast can you really go?
Matthew Hale is saying the Enduro tire on the Pint, his opinion, is the best tire for the Pint.
For the Pint. Yeah, I mean, I've not tried the Pint Performance, I guess it would be. I've not tried that. And so I was just thinking, is the 6-inch PT the Pint tire? But I don't know what I would think it's a performance tire. But we've had the Enduro tire on the Pint. Love that. I think that's currently what's being ridden on our Pint X. The Enduro tire from Float Life is pretty much, as we've tried other tires outside of the Float Life, we always come back to the Float Life. They just have so far made some great tires.
And now with their that's amazing with their website up. That is.
Yeah, it really helps you.
You were buying tires. You were doing review after review on tires because that was the only way to try or to figure it out, So that's kind of nice to
be
able to survey it.
I think that when you, again, with Float Life, I like that they kind of walk you through the process of their tires. Hey, this is the 3rd, 5th, 6th rendition of it, and they're great riders out there at the Float Life. So I don't feel like they're ever rushing something just to get it out. They have a good quality control, and so you're not going to be disappointed with that. Whereas other tires that have been dropped get dropped too early. And then all of a sudden you got a tire that's not very great, and the sidewalls are too soft. We got some tires here that we would get sidewall slashes, and it was just because the sidewall wasn't thick enough to sustain those rocks nicking it, and it became frustrating to have that tire here because it wasn't dependable. And when you're in trails and streets, but trails, you want a dependable tire for the most part, because to walk your board out of a trail system, not enjoyable.
It's just not what I signed up for.
At least streets, when we've had street tire problems, it's a phone call and you're waiting on the side of the road typically where somebody can drive to you. But when you're in trails...
Well, some of the trail systems, you're like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, you got to walk yourself out.
You guys had to do that when we were in Arkansas.
Yeah, I had to walk myself down to a spot where Holly could pick me up. And by the time I got to where I was supposed to be picked up, it was dark. And so...
Oh, yeah, you guys waited forever for me.
And that was just... It was that wasn't a tire problem, actually. That was a sensor problem. That was, I fell off my board rolled and just hit a big old rock and slashed the sensor. And then, therefore, we've always traveled with more sensors. And so, again, racing season, we got to, we're at that spot where we got to stock up our tires, our sensors, and things of that nature. Even, here's one, you want to hack for racing season or just in general, buy valve stems.
Oh, yeah.
Buy valve stems.
A lot last year.
For whatever reason, rocks hit those things or get stuck between that and your rim and your rail, and it bends them, and air leaks from that, and now no one else is carrying valve stems. You know how many times I gave away my valve stems to other people to fix their tire problems?
So are we already stocked up, or are we heading into the stock up phase?
I just was on the Float Life yesterday putting that in my cart.
Ah.
Like 5 of...
Wait, you were just on the Float Life last week.
I know, and now I'm back at it. Because I'm prepping for our racing season.
Race season.
So I'm getting 5 of the 90-degree 5-inch valve stems, and then the straight stems for our other rims that are straight rimmed. So
here's a question of traveling. Matthew wants to know if do we travel with more sensors or the front foot pad with the sensors already in it?
Yeah, we just have foot pads ready to go. Because some of that, when you're out there, time is your best friend to get back out there, especially if it happens on race day for us. Again, there's 9 people trying to compete in their age brackets. And so I'm the primary, Legend and Epic can do they can do tire changes and stuff. But when it gets to some of those things, like a sensor change, I don't want to do that in the field. I want that done, it tested, that it works, so that you're putting something on there that's not going to be dangerous for any of the riders. So we pre-do that. Actually, I have a box of them that we just have stacked here because you don't tend to go through sensors very much. So they sit there. I think we have 2 that are just ready to go so that we can have a good racing season. But again, you got 10 boards traveling with all of those possible. You got to have a lot of stuff. And so just always trying to figure out what do you need, how do you bring it, and how do you change things quickly. So always sensors, grip tape are all done ahead of time. And we carry a few back foot pads because you just don't know what could happen when you crash. Your board takes a tumble. I don't want to jack around with too much of the grip tape, though. We do travel with some grip tape. But, we'll all go through. Right now, boards are all being disassembled, cleaned, and we're looking at the grip tape of all of them. We'll replace the grip tape. But mid-season, your grip tape to us is new grip tape's awesome. You're just stuck on your board. And so we will come back and mess with the grip tape mid-season, potentially. And we only carry a couple of those. Maybe that's another podcast for us to go through. When traveling with Onewheels to races, what do you suggest you bring? We bring a bunch of tools. I mean, we really do travel with a lot of stuff to...
I mean, the tote that we travel for Onewheel stuff and just the Onewheels in general is bigger than any. suitcases or anything we take, the kids get one bag, and we have probably 2 totes for Onewheels.
I mean, we travel with stators, motors.
Yeah.
We have all of those things sitting there because, again, if somebody goes down and you don't have time to troubleshoot it always, right? So it's like, let's just slap on this new motor. And so it might be a downgrade for somebody, but at least you can still finish. So we try to troubleshoot all of those things. Hopefully we did justice to Vesc vs.Onewheel, which tire is right for you for your ride, a comprehensive guide. We were trying to be really thorough on it. One of the things that, and this kind of goes into, the installation of tires. Real quick tidbit, some of the reason I like the soft compound, they're easier to put on your motor,
actually
your hub. Oh yeah, they are a little bit more. I'm going to use the word stretchy. That's moldable, pliable. The harder the compound, it sucks to get them on. It's doable. It's just not enjoyable.
kind of a pain.
So the softer compound, in my opinion, is a great ride. Secondly, it's easier to install. There's a couple hacks that you can do to install your tires. Windex works great. There are things that work better. My friend Jacob, who lives in the northern part of Minnesota, I have no idea what he actually gave me, but he gave me a bucket full of this, what looks like Vaseline, but it's meant for tires.
It's like for a mechanic shop.
Yeah. I'm sorry I don't know the name because it's in a cottage cheese container. But
He buys it in a big bucket.
I take it, what he told me to do, and I rub it on here. I put it on the edge of this, the inside and the hub, and it goes right on. It makes the
installation easy,
and you don't have to pump up the PSI to get your sidewalls to pop, to seed. You don't have to worry about that. It just seeds really fast, and it's usually 1 pop versus 2, and the PSI is really, really low. To install the Pioneer the other night, to get that to pop, the bead to pop on that, I think I went to 12 PSI, and it popped both of them, so it wasn't scary at all. It was like, oh, that was really easy to do, and it's because of that stuff. Maybe by next week we'll have the name. He's told me, I just forget.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
But then what it does also is it helps with sealing that as well. You're not going to get a bead leak throughout that because that fills in those little holes throughout that. Yes, Hal?
You have one question on here. If the tire is the easiest way to upgrade a board, what would be the next easy? Like right after tire?
Right after tire, the next upgrade that would give you a different ride would be, now you're going to get really loose opinions on that, but your foot pads will change the ride pretty quick. If you get flared, you get which I love the flares. Mm-hmm. I love the flares. I moved to the flares to Onewheel. I love it. The sensor is wonderful in my opinion. The extra real estate is great. It's more comfortable. It allows me to get into the cars more. I enjoy, I cannot express how much, coming from snowboarding, and then when we lived in Florida, surfing, I love deep carves. The more powder out there on a snowboard allows me to carve deep. I like that feeling. I just feel like I'm beating gravity, being able to lean over and your body's just the further I get.
And that's so funny because I like the wide foot pad because of how
stability.
Like how
Gives
comfortable I feel on the board, that I'm not gonna my foot's not sliding off anywhere, because I do not get into the carve.
But that's what's so cool about that is it does give you more real estate to hug onto the board. But when you turn the board and you drop into the carve, so the tire's now like this a little bit, now you can lean with more weight on the wider foot pad, which is on there. It gives you more real estate to lean. So when you're here, it's more stability. When you break the flat part of on the sidewall now more real estate to push into the carve. You have more toe side to push into the carve, and it really does change that overall riding experience. So that'd be the second upgrade you can do. That's a little bit more spending. I think you're spending from Onewheel, if I remember right, it's like $150, $135 for both. That changes it. You have other options. You can go to Float Life. You can go to Craft and Ride, where you can look at all these different foot pads. Unless you're a group ride trying it, some of you purchase and try. Legend for a season was riding 2 different foot pads because some people like the back foot pad to be one way, the front to be this. There's whole kinds of setups. So the second thing you need to do to change your ride outside of the tire is the grip tape / foot pad. The reason the pause there is because if you want a free way to really change and play with your ride, mess with the PSI of this tire you have.
Oh, yeah.
That's a free one.
that's a
Harder
good
tire. Harder tire will make it more wobbly. Potentially, a more squishy tire will make it where it's got a little bit of squish to it. But you do work against yourself in the more squishy the tire, the less air pressure in it, the more battery life, the range is taken away, the overall speed is gone because it takes more to move the thing because there's more rubber touching the ground. And so you just got to be mindful of that. There is a bit of like, hey, read your tire and don't pump it up too much because they're not built to hold 50 I mean, they can, but that's not very wise. Just make sure you're not pumping them up too high. And on the equal, don't go too low that you're riding the rim or the rubber's touching the rails. And so that's the free hack.
That's a good one.
Getting into the money game, now you're starting to spend money on a tire. And then I think the hurdle for the tire is, yes, it's one of the quickest ways to do it, but it is a learning curve to take your tire on and off. So if you don't know how to do that or you don't have the tools to do it, it can be very cumbersome. There are ways to do it. When we originally started,
lots of reviews.
We did not have any tools. I did it all by hand, broke the bead with my hands, the whole thing.
And you would say, if you're going to get new tires, get the tools.
I would, but not necessarily. If you got your birthday coming up and somebody gave you $150, well, that's enough to get the tire, and then break the bead. There's some hacks with that, and I'm not going to give you those hacks because I don't want you to ruin your
got the tools because we
just do it so much.
You change tires.
We have 10 boards running around here getting changed. It takes a lot of changing those tires. Okay. I think we've covered it. I know there's so much more, and hopefully this is comprehensive for all of you to really make those decisions. We've spent an hour on it. Again, I'll give you some .com locations to check out tires. You do have Flight Fins that you can go check out their tire. We've rode it. We reviewed it. We have a whole tire playlist on here that we reviewed so many tires. Some are still in production, some aren't. The Flight Fin makes the Whisper tires. They're all great. The Whisper tire is you burn through that one relatively quick because it's super, super soft. One of the softest compounds, which makes it super enjoyable and very light, but it means it doesn't have longevity to it. But they make the Whispers. They make the Goat tire. Wonderful. Very treaded tire. You have the Float Life, who has some great tires there. They make some wonderful tires. Some of the best, to be honest with you, and they're still on sale. You can go to Craft and Ride. They have a few tires that they've made themselves, along with carrying a lot of other tires on there that you can see from other distributors. And then there are a bunch of other tires out there that you got to do your own research. You got to be able to go find them yourself. That there's other people, other brands making tires. They just haven't hit the mainstream market where, hey, everybody's talking about this tire. Then you have go-kart tires. You can search those all day long on any go-kart tire. I mean, just Google go-kart tires, and you're going to put in the size, rim, and all those things that match the size you want. And you can now play around with the Burris is a great place to go. Hoosier Tires make some great ones. You're just going to go down the list of the brands, and they're going to have some great tires for you to try. There you go.
Thanks so much.
If you're still watching, you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, we always do a Onewheel podcast weekly. We do tire reviews when they're sent to us. We will do a Pioneer 5-inch tire review shortly as we have snow sitting out there. And like I said, I rode it in the office today, and it was awesome. So have a spectacular day, everybody. And we'll see you next week as we will try to bring a guest on to help us talk about setting up Vesc boards and GTs. Maybe we get 2 guests on here next week that can kind of do both for us. And so looking forward to those conversations next week, everybody. I guess that'll be in 2 weeks because next week our guest is, glad I caught that. Our next week's guest is those wonderful brains behind the Lemonade Float Fest, which is happening in April. Before that, we have the Let It Ride out in the desert. We are hopefully going to get the creators of that and the race coordinators on to talk about those races as well as the race season.
We'd love to talk with all the creators of the race.
The race coordinators.
So if you yeah, shoot out a message to the coordinators. We'd love
Let's
to chat with
do
them.
it. Okay, everybody, have a spectacular
everybody.
day. This is it. Bye, everybody.